views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Come up on this edition of Perspectives, June 19th, 1865, over 3,000 uniformed United States colored troops marched through the town telling those who were enslaved they were free. Juneteenth Freedom Jubilee celebration is here to share the history of slavery and to memorialize its ending. On this episode, we'll dive into how the Bronx is commemorating Juneteenth, plus talk about the significance of this Juneteenth holiday. That and more on this edition of Perspectives with yours truly, Daren Jaime.
What's on your mind? Express what's on your mind. What's on your mind?
Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference in someone's life. Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to Perspectives again. I am Daren Jaime. We want to thank you for joining us. As always, you can watch Perspectives here on BronxNet's Channel 67. We also invite you to stay connected to us on our social media platforms, BronxNet TV. Now, if you're looking to reach me personally, well, you can do that by reaching me on my Facebook page, which is Daren C. Jaime, and then on Instagram and Twitter at DCJaime23. There you'll find some information and possibly some inspiration as well. Well, coming up, we go front and center on today's show, talking about Juneteenth. Juneteenth, National Independence Day, signed into law in June of 2021 by President Biden. It's the actualization of the 13th Amendment. The modern Juneteenth movement was introduced to 43 states and the District of Columbia by National Juneteenth Observance founder Reverend Ronald Myers, Sr. It also recognizes Galveston, Texas, when over 3,000 United States colored troops in uniform marched through the town telling the enslaved that they were free. Major General Gordon Granger actually issued a General Order Number 3, which was posted on the door of the Reedy Chapel and confirmed by the minister. And joining me now to give us a modern day context is Debra Oguamah, who is the founder, CEO, creator of Creating Unity in the Community, and a leader of the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation, New York City chapter. We've had her on before. She's back again. And Debra, I'm glad to have you back.
I'm glad to be back. Thank you so much for having me back on your show. Again, talking about Juneteenth, all things Juneteenth.
All things Juneteenth, it actually is. And when we talk about Juneteenth, knowing now that it's signed into federal law, we're about, another year in. Talk to me a bit just about your general feelings of having Juneteenth be a federal holiday.
Okay, I am really excited. I have been working tirelessly. I am a long time, over a decade member of NJOF. I originally had a lot of conversations with who we call Dr. Doc Myers over the years, and he inspired me to really concentrate here in the Bronx, in New York. My contact again was Brooklyn, Brownsville Heritage at Mother Gaskin, because they were the ones who went to Albany back in, believe it was 2004 under Pataki, and signing into the legislation, making Juneteenth a national observance in the state of New York. And now that our new president, Steve Williams, which is the president now of NJOF, and of course, that beautiful legislation of all of us coming together, making sure that that sign was, Juneteenth was going to be a federal holiday. And one of our long-term members that really inspired us, we cannot leave her out, is Miss Opal Lee. Miss Opal Lee was right there in the White House giving our President Joe Biden the first pen to sign it into federal law. Isn't that wonderful?
It's wonderful, and I think it's wonderful. It's a long time coming. It went from a state observance to a national observance, and it was a long time coming. But I think that when we talk about the actualization of Juneteenth. We hear so many people talk about, critical race theory and trying to replace what is history, but this is a part of American history. It's a part of world history, and it's something that shouldn't be forgotten.
No, it should not. And the NJOF, we have various committees that is also working with the educational component and trying to get a lot of our history in the schools, the public schools across the country, and including our history, because we have a very rich history. So we don't want to be forgotten about those historical landmarks that we should own and that we should claim. And especially here in New York, now that it's Juneteenth, we will be doing a flag raising at the Bronx Borough Hall, which will be on Monday, which is the 6th at 12 o'clock. And I will be at so we will have our Bronx Borough president there and another lady from 1199, Jocelyn. She will be heading that for me under Creating Unity in a Community. And I will be at the Harlem State Office building known as the Adam Clayton Powell building, raising that Juneteenth flag again on June the 6th at 12 o'clock. We was trying to get, again, the Statue of Liberty. New York and New Jersey NJOF was collaborating and trying to get that raised. But we are inspired to, again, try to apply all of our efforts nationwide and getting it raised, hopefully by next year. This year, we are now in conversation along with a city council member, Farrah Lewis in Brooklyn, in conversation with our mayor, Mayor Eric Adams, and trying to get that flag raised at Rector Street, Wall Street, the Bull, Exchange Place, okay? For those that don't know, this was a mission of Doc Myers. This is what he wanted. And we are trying to, uplift his legacy because he was the one that went to every state and trying to get the observance and trying to get this legislation passed. And there's a lot, of course, in that legislation that we're still working on as of today and will continue to work on. So if anyone is interested in joining NJOF.org, you can find it on the website. And myself, Debra Oguamah, under Creating Unity in a Community, because now that this is a federal holiday, it is up to us as members of NJOF not only to raise the flag, but to get out the educational component dealing with Juneteenth. We also have curriculum for school children to utilize as well, the significance of Juneteenth and why it has to be included and why we have to continuously teach this legacy. One of the things that we're emphasizing this year is General Order number 3. General Order number 3, we want to have that general order, and I sent out a lot of emails so that churches can post that order number 3 on their religious institutions, but not only just post it, but also put in their bulletin about the 12 freedoms that was gained during 1865. And some of those freedoms we're still working on today in 2020. And that is the eye opener. So those are the things that we're trying to get out to the general public, that educational piece, far as the proclamation, far as how to do a Juneteenth flag raising, why our troops, our colored troops, mean so much to this historical celebration that we do, because our troops were forgotten. And that's the reason why we have Memorial Day that we celebrated. So we are patriotic, and this is our land, and this is our country, and we have to educate folks so that they can understand, and not only understand, but also to be included in it, because so many times we are not, and people's biases, I feel, because of their own lack of knowledge, not even understanding our tremendous contribution to this country. So that's what we want for all of the religious institutions to do.
Can you take me back for a minute, because we had a conversation about making sure the churches know and cities know and states. But one of the things that you talked about a few minutes ago was the potential of possibly seeing a flag raising on Wall Street. And I don't want to overlook that, because there are a lot of people out there who may not be so familiar. Why would it be important for a flag raising on Wall Street? And the reason being is simply because Blacks in that day were responsible for the building, slaves were responsible for the building of that actual Wall Street that we know it as today, this financial center of the world. And we know that there's even an African burial ground that's located right down there.
But not only that, is that we were brought in from the motherland as cargo, and we were sold at the port of Wall Street as high commodity. And it's also connected to the insurance companies, which a lot of them still exist today. And need not I say that also behind that is accountability and reparations, quite simply. Because if we were sold as a high commodity on those auction blocks on Wall Street and building Wall Street, and paying high prices for insurance to ensure our cargo arrived safely and sold right there in Lower Manhattan, then why are we not understanding that there's a debt to be paid? And we have paid our debt, and now it's time for us to claim our rightful debt on our rightful place in history as well. So reparations are definitely behind that.
Yeah. Share me a little bit about your perspective. A lot of people had concerns about Juneteenth becoming a federal holiday and the way that it would be commemorated. We know across the country there were other Juneteenth celebrations that were planned, scrapped, and canceled that included basically highlighting white people, white businesses, white things, everything white. Talk to me about your thoughts, and what does that make you feel like, given the fact that so much time, so much effort has been put on emphasizing, first of all, the contributions of African-American slaves, troops, those in the military, and yet and still almost to see, not even a year in, people trying to twist the history already.
Yes, that's one of the major things that we had just recently discussed. And we are working on a committee. We have a legal team that's definitely working on the copyright and the infringement of organizations like Walmart, like I don't want to missay or quote any other companies, but there was a lot of talk with our president about that, and they went ahead and did it anyway. So we don't want Juneteenth to be exploited in any form or fashion, and it's not. So now we have a committee that's going to be nationwide and really going after a lot of these organizations that is copyrighting or using Juneteenth to sell candy, to sell ice cream, to sell other t-shirts and things like that. But there's enough information and celebration about Juneteenth because we have pageants of Miss Juneteenth. We have a famous barbecue that's getting ready to jump off now in Galveston, Texas, who has the best barbecue across the country. Our president will be in Washington, D.C. on June the 20th. They will have a huge Juneteenth parade with all people coming from all over the country and joining in that jubilee as well, but also really emphasizing the educational component, because that's a lot of times what people miss. It's not a thing where, okay, so many people are giving Juneteenth celebrations, which is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. But the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation cannot be sidetracked for us putting forth over 40 something pieces of legislation and making it what it is today. But not just that, that other bills can be done in the same process, in the same manner, because we did not wait for other states to get on board. We went ahead and pushed that legislation on through, thanks to Miss Opal Lee, 94 years young. She really gave us our charging papers. And this was really after Doc Myers had made his transition in 2018. It was like, well, where do we go from here? You know, what do we do now? Because people have always had Juneteenth celebrations. And I don't want to leave out, of course, the collaboration. Now I am the National Juneteenth Observance NYC chapter. And now I am getting together with people in Brooklyn, because Brooklyn will be having a lot of their celebrations and their flag raisings as well. So we're trying to like collaborate again with the people, Mr. Hassan from the African Day Parade, trying to really collaborate and strengthen New York with Juneteenth, that we are all on one page and unified. That is really important for us to be unified. So when other organizations or other people try to turn it around or profit off of us, we have a unified front that's working collectively together in order to preserve and respect Juneteenth.
So as we talk a little bit further, I want to take a quick break and come back in a few minutes and talk a little bit more with you after this. But I want to talk about, where do we go from here? Now that it's a federal holiday, how do we continue beyond Juneteenth, beyond June? How do we do this year round? I'll talk to Debra with a little bit more about that right here on Perspectives with yours truly, Daren Jaime. And welcome back. Continuing our conversation with Debra as we're talking about Juneteenth and the celebration. But now we want to talk about Juneteenth and actualization. When we talk, Debra, about really what Juneteenth is about, it's about understanding that the slaves were free. But the truth is, it took about 2 years for those in Texas to finally get the word. And as I look in 2022, we got the Tops Massacre, you got Uvalde, Texas, you got a whole lot of other things that are going on that lets us know that even though we are free, there's still a whole lot more work that needs to be done.
Most definitely. And before we had touched a little bit on the 12 freedoms, I just would like to name some of the 12 freedoms so that people
Please.
can really understand exactly what happened in 1865 and how it is relevant today. The 12 freedoms were to birth and name your children, to create and to dress. We wasn't even having the opportunity in order to dress or express ourselves creative in the way we dress. We had to, accept clothing from the master. And some of that, again, the type of clothes that we buy today, are we getting it manufactured from certain, department stores, or are we sharing, or are we patronizing our own people and our own creative artistry that we have with our own clothing line? Instead of wearing all of these labels, there's a lot of Black, fashion designers that needs to get that type of recognition even today. And it was to know and to preserve your history. So that's what we're doing now, because each and every day we are finding more and more truths about our history. To marry and to have a family. A lot of times our family structure today is being broken down economically from all angles, whether it's our health disparity, whether it's our the jobs that we have that they're not giving pensions, so on and so forth. And to serve in the military. Some of the military just recently told me again, in honoring this Memorial Day that just passed, how the treatment is different, or how our story is not included in today's military, or they just may have one or two people of color to say a few words, and then the rest of it is kind of pushed to the back burner. To vote, to vote and to govern. So those voting rights are still being challenged today. To our own, to have our own and do our own business again, to grow our food again. What happened in Buffalo? Why wasn't the community banded together and demanded another supermarket? Why was there only one supermarket? I also brought up that question here with all of the sea towns. I wrote a proposal to grow green New York so that we can have other food options here. We should not have food deserts in our community today at 2020. To read and write, to travel, and to worship. These are things that we need to re-examine ourselves in this country and continue to really challenge it, whether it's our political leaders, whether it's people on our job, corporate America, whether it's our own family members or people that we know that see things and say nothing and want to do nothing. It's nothing to band together and do a petition. You don't like what's going on? Start a petition. Go to your community board and work your way up to the city council, to the assembly, to the Senate, to our governors, straight to the White House, and get the bill signed. We, the people, hold the power, and we are the ones that really have to change it. We don't like it, then change it. A lot of things we have got and we have gained, but as soon as we do have some things, then a lot of other things are being pushed back. We have to keep our eyes on all the fires because they are constantly burning every day. So, and I thank you for at least having this platform to share this information because it is so crucial. So, in the future, you will be hearing more about the other educational components dealing with Juneteenth and really trying to teach people what all things about Juneteenth, far
Yeah.
as the educational.
But before we go, I do want you to have I do want to give you the opportunity to be able to share with people once again about the Juneteenth celebration and how they can get in touch with you.
Okay. All right. Again, my name is Debra Oguamah, and I have a Facebook page, Creating Unity in a Community. And also, Juneteenth has a Facebook page that is operated by a lady named Dee. She's from Vegas. You can see her picture there. And if you have any Juneteenth postings, you can also post it on her website or my website, and I can get permission to post it. So this Monday, at 12 o'clock, we will be at the state office building in Harlem and at the borough president's office here in the Bronx, raising the Juneteenth flag. And I invite people to come out and to celebrate and to learn so much of our history about Juneteenth, because Juneteenth can be celebrated 360 days out of the year as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, it's so much about the history of Juneteenth that people are still learning. And I hope that through Juneteenth observances, people become more aware of the sacrifices, the history that was made, and the history that we have as a people, and knowing that although we have come a long way, there's still a long way that we have to go. And in order to know where you're going, you have to know first where you come from. Debra, I want to thank you again for being with us here on Perspective, sharing with us a little bit more about Juneteenth and what a special day it is, not just for Black history, but for American history. So thank you so much for being with us here on Perspectives.
Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you so much.
All righty. Well, Debra is our guest here on Perspectives, and we want to thank you for joining us. Listen, as we talk about Juneteenth, the celebration, don't just take the day off, but honestly do something. Create an awareness, do something in the form of social activism. A lot of people died. A lot of people were enslaved. A lot of people really suffered just to be able to get to this day. But it's not just a day for us to just take off and just have a rest, but it's really a day for us to put some work in and letting people know about the accomplishments of who we are and where we come from. That's my perspective. I'm Daren Jaime. We thank you for joining us here on Perspectives. As always, join us every week here on Bronxnet's Channel 67. We'll have a brand new episode coming up next week here. For all of us here on the set of Perspectives, my producer Curlew Burton and myself, thank you for watching. Stay safe. Share your perspective with somebody else. It just might make a difference in somebody else's life. Take care.
Share your perspective.
What's your perspective? Let 'em know.